My name's Eamon Ford. I'm a music business journalist, but we're here to talk about innovations in general, but more specifically around the music industry, which has the music industry had innovation forced on it kind of about 17 years ago with Napster, and it's been kind of reeling ever since. So do you think the music industry has got its head around innovation today? It's had 17 years to deal with this. Do you think it's dealt with it? Does it embrace innovation?
I think the short answer is no. As you know, we're still at the very early stages of innovation in the music industry. I think if you look at music creation, with artists like Arabian, and music consumption with users listening to music, and the path from creation to consumption and how that distribution takes place, there are lots of changes that have been taking place and need to take place going forward. You all know about the changes where music has gone from CDs to online content. Essentially, there's a massive universe of content that you can access online. And then people have gotten used to accessing that content on mobile phones, etc. You listen to it with earbuds and so on. There are still more changes in that domain with lots of music services and all sorts of ways to get revenue off of the content. But there are also changes in the last mile or the last 100 feet of that listening experience. At this stage, the stereo system is not hooked up to your online media or content, and there are things that are happening to make that happen, to hook up your online media to your stereo system in the home or your home media system so you can experience the content in that last 100 feet. So lots of things happening in lots of places.
Okay. Arabian, we can talk about your experience, because you came into the music industry just as the CD was a niche concept but was about to explode. So how do you feel kind of on the inside that the industry's dealt with the innovation that's led us from vinyl into CD, now into streaming?
Well, I'm an old school cat, so when we started, it was just cassettes and vinyl, and it seemed that, there you go. It seemed like vinyl's getting a big resurgence, because every time I go to clothing stores around the world now, and there's records being sold right next to the clothes, so it's this big circle with that. But it's crazy that now you don't see CDs as much anymore. Everything's on your phone. Everybody just assumes that I'm just going to pull out this device and I've got all these songs, which is cool. But I think where the innovation is going to come is to remonetize how the artist is getting paid or the companies are getting paid. We as artists have to do more for you guys, the consumers. So instead of just selling you an album, we may have to make an album and just keep remixing and doing different versions so that you guys stay engaged with us. Instead of saying, okay, here's my album for this year, I'm gonna put one out next year, I might have to do the album and then shoot videos of me eating breakfast at home, singing the song, so you guys can check me out, just to keep you engaged, because how we make money is off of you guys being happy at what we do.
Yeah, but the idea of an album is a legacy of the format. It was 45 minutes on vinyl, extended to 70 minutes on CD. So we need to rethink on a creative level what the album is, because the carriers have changed.
Yeah, and I think the album in its form itself is dying. I think that it's going to make you work harder to create hits.
What about, though, kind of interesting things like the idea of the visual album? So the last two Beyonce albums, have example, they've kind of tried to think beyond just 70 minutes of audio. It's something else. It's a creative concept.
It's an art form. It's a new art form in this world right now. Everybody's visual now. I mean, how many people, who here doesn't look on YouTube at least twice a week? Raise your hand. Look at that.
Doesn't, right.
Maybe one or two people who doesn't look at YouTube twice a week. Every day, first thing you do, check your mail, check your this. Oh, what's going on YouTube? It's a visual society now. So it's not just music. It's everything. You know, all media is combined into one thing now.
Okay. Let's talk about this word innovation. It's a word that's kind of thrown around. Everybody claims, every new service that comes along claims to be either disruptive or innovative or both, or innovatively disruptive or disruptively innovative.
Or innovative next, like my company.
Is it a word that is at very serious danger of being devalued by being overused for things that aren't really innovative?
Well, I think yes, it is overused a lot. I would say there's innovation and there's incremental improvement. And substantial innovation doesn't really happen that frequently, the big changes. But there are always lots of small improvements. And what you see in technology year after year when Apple releases something new or Samsung does something new, those are really incremental changes. Having said that, even in those incremental changes, there are underlying details that we may take for granted that require fundamental innovation in certain things. So, it's not true to say completely that incremental change has no innovation. There is. If you look at the Samsung battery problem, for example, that might seem like a simple problem to us just looking at it. But the amount of technical details they have to solve on various little pieces and considerations, there might be 100 different issues to be dealt with on that simple battery, at least. And there are, I would bet, some very involved technical innovations that had to be invented to deal with something as simple as that, or what you might think is simple as that. So, there's innovation at all sorts of levels, but the broad innovation that we think about doesn't happen that frequently.
Okay. On your take on that, you've been through lots of periods of supposed innovation and disruption in the industry.
Yeah. Well, for me, I look at it like this. We've been in our technological advancement, I would say, 100 years, a little over 100 years now, from the train to the car to going to space.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, we still use exactly the same things we used 100 years ago. The tire, the wheel, it's, they keep improving it, but it's technically the same thing. So it's not about lack of innovation. It's just, like you said, incremental changes in innovation. And I think the word innovate is not going to go away, but us as human beings, we're going to figure out a way to flip it, just like we flip. Remember, you got your first HD TV, and then it was like 4K, and now it's like Ultra 4K and Ultra 4K HDR. So we'll just keep adding little sub-names to innovation to make it sound like it's better. Just like, no defense to Apple. Hopefully there's no Apple employees in the audience, but, the iPad Pro. Not Pro anymore, but they're still going to charge you a ton of money for it. It took them 100,000 man-hours to make it 1 inch smaller, a couple inches thinner, and a couple inches, little lighter. But my point is, that's innovation. Little baby steps of innovation.
Do the real innovators, though, are they the people who don't see the financial upside of this? The people who go out and innovate kind of get their commercial thunder stolen by people who are great at perfecting ideas, like Apple.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's entirely true, because if you're really innovating something fundamental, it takes a long while to turn that into something usable and practical and commercial. So the distance between inventing and making revenue off of that is really long. So even if you have IP and patents on it. So invariably, the person that invents something fundamental, like the internet, as an example, of course, there were many people involved in that, but still, they are very far distant from the end result. So it's a sad fact of, I wouldn't say it's a sad fact, but it's a reality.
So, like that idea, if a tree falls over in a forest and no one's around to hear it, doesn't make a noise. If somebody innovates and it doesn't make any money, is that really an innovation?
Well, then you call that fundamental science. If it enhances our knowledge of the universe, the world, and so on. If it doesn't do anything, then it's not innovation. It's not invention either. But either it has some business or commercial value or personal value, or it moves our knowledge, our frontier of knowledge forward. If it does either one of those things, it's valuable.
Okay.
But then again, you have even people in this audience who have created an app or some type of innovation that may have failed. And it may not have been because it's not the greatest thing on planet Earth. It might have been the timing. It may be ahead of its time. It might be your marketing plan wasn't correct, or your logo. I mean, think about the App Store. Millions of apps. You're scrolling. Okay, I want this app. Which ones do you pick? You pick the app with the best looking logo first, Then you look at it and you go, okay, here's the reviews. And there may be one that's 10 times better that maybe an engineer created. He's very proud of it. It's 10 times better than the pretty app. But because he doesn't have that visual representation, you don't buy it and it becomes a flop. So there's innovation there, but sometimes it's just lost in the shuffle.
Absolutely, and you really do you have to make 10 mistakes for every one success, so you absolutely have to innovate, even if it doesn't generate something specific.
I generally make 10 mistakes and then 10 more mistakes.
Right, exactly.
Is there, when we talk about innovation, it becomes this thing within the tech sector about this is the holy grail, we've got to innovate. Is there a disconnect between that, the acceleration of innovation perceived in the tech industry versus what the consumer wants or what the audience wants?
Well, I was thinking about it in the context of this last election where everybody was in their own bubble. So I was thinking that even the tech industry is in its own bubble in some ways. But I think that bubble has value within the bubble and outside of it. Because there's so many things that have been improved in terms of efficiency and flexibility and capability that you can do on all fronts. Just email, for example. It's changed the way we do business. It's sped up our interaction, communication, cell phones. So I think it does have fundamental value to everybody, whether they...
Yeah, and let's go to the basic apps. Take Instagram, Snapchat. Look at Snapchat. It's probably one of the most simplest apps ever created, right? In its simplest form, a couple guys created it. Now they have hundreds of thousands of employees already, and they've moved on to other little nuances, the little bunny ears in the nose and all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't really mean much, but it is innovation because you didn't have that before, and everyone uses it. So whether it's an important step in innovation, it will ultimately lead to something else. Like somebody will take that idea and go, that's cool, we're going to use that and make something different and hire a bunch of more people and make more money.
And I think the other interesting thing is the speed of innovation. If you think about how fast innovation is happening, and it's getting faster and faster, there are just more people doing more stuff than there was 50 years ago, and inventing more stuff all the time. And so that's a fantastic world, I think.
Do you think, for the music industry, is the innovation still around the way to get the music to the audience rather than the music itself? Do you think that that's suffering?
Here's what I think is going to happen. I think that there's going to be a lot more, like I talked about earlier, connect between the artist directly with the consumer. Like, and no disrespect to the record companies or the big companies, but I think that there's going to be this artists really caring what the consumer wants and listening and giving them that directly, and without this whole, okay, well, we have to go through the record company and listen to what 1,700 people are telling me, or 17 people at the record company are telling me about my art form. This is my art form. This is what I created. I should be able to deliver it to my fans and let them enjoy what I foresee,
Right.
Yeah, I think technology is speeding up and simplifying and make it easier for the artist to get directly to the consumer, and removing all the filters in the middle. It offers the artists many more distribution channels, many ways of monetizing their work, and it enhances the amount of content that the user can access. It's really increasing the amount of content.
Yeah, and let's put the word out there, and you can say the word, Google it, blockchain. If you don't know about blockchain, read up on it, because that's going to change the way that you consume all medium in the next 5 to 10 years.
You're going to have to read a lot about blockchain because it's incredibly complicated, but it's a really, really important thing. I'd be interested in terms of the first bit of technology or software that you saw that completely blew you away. The first time I saw a demo of Shazam was probably about 15 years ago, and somebody had to dial 250,
Yes.
and we waited for a text to appear. And this is before it even went to the public, and it worked. And it was one of those moments where, right, everything's changed. What was the innovation that you saw that completely shook out all your preconceptions?
I think the blockchain that Arabian is talking about for music is really fantastic, and is going to change the way music is consumed and used and paid for. The artist can enter that information at the point of creation, and the playback systems can validate that at the point of playback. So everything in the middle then becomes irrelevant. you could make music, encode it with the blockchain, just stick it up there on the internet like an MP3 file. No need to go to Spotify or iTunes, etc., but you'd still get your revenue as that's played on the playback systems. So smart playback systems with technologies like blockchain really can transform how media is going to be used, and I see that as very exciting.
Okay, I mean, this could be a recent thing, or this could be something
Well,
you saw 20 years ago.
You know, I might be an old ex-gangster rapper, but mine's a little more cheesy. I love Disneyland, and the app that blew me away is the Disneyland line that tells you where the short lines are. So when you go to Disneyland or you go to an amusement park and you're walking around, like, okay, 2 hours for this line, 45 minutes for this. I mean, to be able, imagine, you got 400,000 people just here, like here, for instance, an app that tells you where a seat is or where you can go to get food faster. I love that because it's a more down-to-earth people kind of innovation. I like that.
Because is that kind of driven by beacon? It must be driven by beacon
yeah,
technology.
It's driven by beacon, but I like it because I'm more of a people innovator. I want things that support us, that makes my life easier every day so I can stay at home and watch SpongeBob.
Well, it's all about staying home and watching SpongeBob.
Yeah.
I guess if we're talking about music and innovation, the thing that people are really excited about is augmented reality and virtual reality, and kind of they're thinking, we were talking about the idea of taking music beyond just the audio into the visual, and here's another leap. What's your take on that? Is this something that, on a creative level, that musicians can really get their heads around and start to think about music as something very different?
I see it as very interesting from a revenue perspective. If you look at artists, they're not making a lot of money through the streaming services and other things like that, but they're making most of their money, I don't want to say most, but a fair amount, from live events.
Yeah.
Now, if you can broaden that live event rather than just the venue, but actually broadcast live to all your fan base at the moment that you're having that event and monetize that, that's really a very effective and valuable thing, I think, for artists.
Yeah.
So I find that very exciting.
Just like here, like right here, we're here.
Right.
There's millions of people around the world who couldn't be here, who's going to watch these streams on YouTube. But in virtual reality, if we had a couple of VR cameras set up, they could actually be sitting right here or right there and be a part of it more so than just looking at a flat screen.
So is that something that would really impact music on a live level, on the performance level, rather than the kind of the album single creation level? This is going to be something that's performance based rather than...
Oh yeah, I think it is, and I think it's going to put people closer to the audience. And imagine being able to go to a Kanye West concert and be right there with Eazy. You know, Yeezy's up on stage, and you're like, you can't do that at a real concert. You get beat down by the security. But
But
we'll put the camera like right here, and you're right there with Kanye. I mean, people will pay for that engagement, you know?
That's right.
Okay, unfortunately, we have run out of time, so we could sit here and talk about innovation for months.
And years.
Or we'll do it in virtual reality next time. So show your appreciation for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.